Hello and welcome to Navani Lore and Theory video. I'm Shergog, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at why Narberal Gamma strongly dislikes humans, how karma values in general are influencing the behavior of NPCs, and why karma values have other mechanics than just influencing the personality of an NPC. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my patrons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Narberal Gamma is one of the 7 Pleiades battlemates, who serve as the last bastion, the final line of defense against hostile invaders in the Great Tomb of Nazarick. She and her 5, let's call them normal sisters, have the task of merely holding back the enemy, of delaying their entry into the throne room. This delay then would allow Ainz and his guild members to gather for a final battle in the throne room. Now, while Narberal Gamma is indeed the strongest among the normal Pleiades, she would also likely stand no chance against the 7th and the youngest sister, Auriol Omega, who is at level 100. And Auriol coordinates the teleportation network of the Great Tomb, and is also the only human-like entity in Nazarick. However, Demiurge does harbor some doubts about her humanity, despite her, at least formally, being a human, considering she is immortal, and nearly as strong, if not indeed stronger than he is. And Auriol Omega is notable for another reason. She is the only human-like being whom Narberal Gamma considers an equal, and on the same interpersonal level as herself. This is because Narberal Gamma, like most NPCs of the Great Tomb, despises and loathes the humans and other people in general who are not from Nazarick. And she makes no secret of it. To her, humans are vermin, worms, and insects, and when she was repeatedly flirted with by a ranger, Lucrat Wolfe, she also repeatedly threatened him with death and dismemberment, as in down there. However, Wolfe was so fixated on Narberal, who was pretending to be an adventurer, that he mistook her behavior as that of a typical tsundere. Now, there aren't many misunderstandings and foolish actions that could put someone on par with the great General Philip, but this was certainly one of them. Anyhow, Narberal Gamma is extremely dangerous to almost any human, because the Pleiades, whom Lord Nishikian Rai had created, has a negative karma value of -400. In other words, not only does she despise humans, but she would also eliminate them without any hesitation, should they dare to treat Ainz with contempt and disrespect, or worse, threatening him. This is also the reason why she almost caused a massacre in the Adventurer Guild back in Season 1 or in the second light novel without any hesitation, when Ainz was about to go on a mission with the Swords of Darkness. She could not read the room, meaning she completely misjudged the social situation as threatening, and therefore she went on the offensive, only to be smacked on the head by Ainz disguised as Momon. And her danger goes even further. Narberal Gamma seriously debated with herself whether she truly needs to wait for Ainz permission to eliminate the humans who, from her own perspective, treat Ainz disrespectfully. So anyone who probably doesn't bow to him. Because of this low threshold, her limited social skills, and her absolute contempt for human life, she is extremely dangerous to any human. And this highlights well that the NPCs in the world have become much more than video game characters, even after Ainz has repeatedly admonished her to be kind to humans and to watch what she is saying. She cannot help but break her facade as the beautiful adventurer, Princess Nabe, and give humans a piece of her mind, at least if they are lucky, because Narberal Gamma is extremely loyal, and because she lives for her Overlord. She wants to protect his honor and reputation therefore at any cost. And that is why she often addresses him with the title Lord in English or German, or with the suffix Samar in Japanese, even though Ainz has explained to her several times not to do so, especially since both are currently undercover. So once again, Narberal was so concerned about Ainz' reputation that, as a doppelganger, and a greater doppelganger at that she had to be repeatedly reminded by Ainz to not address him with Samar, to maintain their role as friends and team partners, and not as lord and servant. In other words, even though Narberal Gamma is absolutely loyal to Ainz, she does indeed disregard his orders because she wants to defend and protect him from all of the, from her perspective, vermin and worms out there. Moreover, in spite of all that I have just said, she indeed can sometimes find a way to appreciate humans, namely when they are struck by lightning, more specifically by lightning created with her own spell, Chain Dragon Lightning. Narberal even complimented Khajiit, whom she just had roasted, literally saying he smelled good for an insect, meaning delicious, as in she was wondering if Entoma Vasilisa Zeta, who preys on other insects, would eat this prey as well. In other words, as already mentioned, Narberal does have a good relationship with her sisters, particularly the more dangerous ones. But at the same time, she is also often mentally very absent, and when nothing of interest to her is happening and no enemies are nearby, she tends to switch to autopilot and zone out. And fun fact, Lupus Regina Beta, who was also not very attentive in regards to the village of Karen and had to be scolded by Ainz Ulgon, actually advised Narberal to pay close attention and to always be vigilant, and she accompanies Ainz Ulgon. Nevertheless, Narberal is sometimes very disinterested. When, for example, Yuri Alpha became a teacher and began instructing the children of Iwantel, Narberal Gamma, despite being nearby, was not at all interested in what her sister and the vice commander of the Pleiades was currently doing. And I think that was specifically because, unlike the situation with Entoma, it wasn't about eliminating an enemy, but rather about teaching other humans, creatures she despises, that such an amount of interest was shown by her. And the reason why Narberal Gamma thinks the way she does is, as mentioned, due to her karma value, and this value indicated how the NPCs would behave in the video game world of Yggdrasil Online. So what actions they would take, what they would do if confronted with an enemy or a weaker enemy, and so on and so forth, if the decision-making process was left to the AI. And in the new world, it is all about how they perceive the world and how they interact with it. In short, what their personality is. And fun fact, a neutral karma value or a slightly positive value doesn't always mean the same thing, as does a negative or a positive karma value of a certain number, because the character is also influencing how this karma value manifests. For example, a neutral person could be like these people from Futurama here, or it could make them into an honorable warrior who has no problem taking a life and attacking innocent countries and people to conquer them, but does so without being cruel or merciless, and who can appreciate the other side. And Yuri Alpha and Albedo's older sister, the MILF of all of our dreams, Nigredo, are also influenced by their karma values, and this is shown in their personalities and in their actions, because they are capable of defying an order from Ainz Ulgon, because both of them together save the children of Riestais, the capital of the kingdom of the same name, from their certain end, because Ainz considered it potentially damaging to the image of Nazarick to send the children to the Happy Farm, and thus wanted them to be all eliminated instead, which, at least from his own point of view, is much better. But thanks to these two kind-hearted ladies, all, or at least a large part of them, survived. So just as Narberal Gamma, thanks to her karma value and personality, was able to ignore certain orders from Ainz and think for herself according to her own moral compass, Yuri, Shizudelta, Cocytus, and others were also influenced by their own karma values to their positive side. And naturally, the best example of all of this is Sebastian, with a karma value of 300 and the personality of Touch Me. He could ignore a direct order from Ainz. He rescued Tuare, and thereby got himself into a lot of trouble. But still, ultimately, if push comes to shove, and there's a clear conflict with being told to your face by the supreme being Ainz Ulgon, or someone acting like him, that you have to do something, and your own moral compass, the Order, in all likelihood, will win out, at least if no other factors like conflicting loyalty are involved in the decision-making process. But the undead Overlord, Ainz Ulgon himself, does not seem to be influenced by karma at all, or at least not to the same extent as Narberal Lupus Reginal Bedur Demiurge, since on paper, Ainz is just as evil as Demiurge, but in reality he is much more moderate, and the reason why he is still able to eliminate masses of humans or capture them and ignore their suffering is that his immunity to mind control has made him devoid of compassion to others, except of those who were meaningful in his past life to him. His actual karma value, though, seems to have little to no influence on his actions, as Ainz is very concerned about being polite, respecting others, and not despising or excluding anyone, or demanding respect just because he is an overlord. And that is also why he started the Project Utopia, where he initially invited beastmen such as the Lizardmen, Ants, Dryads, and other creatures of the New World to the 6th floor of the Grey Tomb, to show that a peaceful coexistence with the Grey Tomb is possible, before he expanded his project to encompass his entire kingdom. Ainz wants his kingdom to be known for peace and prosperity, for justice and for internal security, and not for war or destruction or strife. And without his emotional dampener, if Ainz was still a human, his negative karma value wouldn't affect him at all, for certain, and he would be able to connect to outsiders as well. In other words, at least when it comes to the only known player with a karma value, karma seems to have no effect. And all of this had also been confirmed once again by the author, Maruyama-sama. But the karma value also has other properties, as it not only determines personality alignment, similar to the alignments like neutral good or chaotic evil in Dungeons and Dragons, but also as a value that certain attacks scale with. For example, a spell that is based on virtue and morality can be stronger or weaker, depending on whether one has a positive or negative karma value. And the karma value also determines one's own resistance against such attacks. Let me give you a specific example from the upcoming Overlord movie here. Salfarisia, the holy sword of the Holy Kingdom, can deal enormous damage to all beings with bad karma. But it does not cause significant damage to beings with high or relatively neutral karma values. This means that Ainz Ulgon is not only resistant or even immune to negative energy, but also to any attack or spell that scales with bad karma, because he has negative 500 karma, the lowest value, and therefore he likely takes no damage from such attacks that scale with negative karma. However, he would take much more damage from attacks that scale with positive karma, while Narberal Gamma would still suffer damage from attacks and spells that scale with negative karma, but maybe only about 20% of the original value. In other words, her damage would likely be reduced by 80% if a negative karma spell would hit her, simply because her karma is 80% to the absolute 0.0 of karma, minus 500. Conversely, the same kind of spell that scales with a karma would be 80% stronger, and spells that scale with positive karma, for example, a holy attack or a holy lance, would be 80% weaker. Oh, and the scaling doesn't necessarily have to be a factor of 2, or a resistance in percentage. It can also be 3, 4, or even 8, or just 50% of the damage. meaning someone with positive karma value would suffer 50% more damage, and someone with negative karma would suffer 50% less damage against certain spells or attacks. And conversely, the same kind of spell that scales with her karma would be 80% stronger, and spells that scale with a positive karma value, for example a Holy Rod, would be 80% weaker. Oh, and the scaling doesn't necessarily have to be a factor of 2. It can also be 3, 4, or even 8, or just 50% of the damage, meaning someone with a positive karma value would suffer 50% more damage from a negative karma attack, and someone with negative karma, like Ainz, 50% less damage. Again, it is probably all dependent on the spell itself and the conditions that the spell is applied on. And again, conversely, an angel or player with a karma value of plus 500 would not take any damage from a Holy Lance attack, because in this example the spell also scales with a positive karma value, but it would inflict double the amount of damage against Ainz. In other words, karma not only affects the personality of NPCs, but also certain spells, abilities, maybe even terrain bonuses or penalties, and how resistant or vulnerable one is to certain attacks. And not only the raw behavior, when the NPCs were still just NPCs in the video game. And this scaling, this damage multiplier, also applies to Ainz and likely all other players. And he's basically just immune to all of the character changing traits that his normal karma value of minus 500 would normally give an NPC like him. And that's all for today. And now it's your turn. What's your opinion on Narberal Gamma and her karma value, and of course on the other NPCs and karma in general? What do you think your karma value would be? Let me know it down in the comment section. I would do it too, but YouTube doesn't allow so many characters and minus signs. And while you're typing, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and special thanks to Other, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dan Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Lofrazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Kune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, The Orc Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.